Welcome back to another episode of Chatting Cinema. I'm Gianni.
I'm Flynn.
And I'm Luke, and boy, is it nice to say
It's
this again.
been a while. It's been a while. So, some housekeeping first off. Obviously, we've
Mhm.
been not uploading. Huge pandemic,
Yeah.
kicked out of school. um, this,
Many
that, and the
reasons.
other. Yeah, whatever you can think of, it happened, and
Right.
and that's how we came to here. And we're back.
hmm
So we're back. It's good to be back.
It is. It is.
Nothing is set in stone. We probably won't be uploading weekly, but we will be uploading and recording when we can.
hmm
And we have some other avenues now that we're trying to explore. So, yeah, we have a blog.
Yeah.
Anyone want to tee that off?
Yeah, for sure. So super excited about the blog. It's chattingcinema.wordpress.com. Super easy to remember. And yeah, we explored that because as Gianni was saying, the upload schedule has been very interrupted and will probably be continue to be interrupted. Aren't gonna have too solid a recording and releasing schedule like we used to. So we thought the blog was a great way to kind of offset that and try to make sure that we keep putting out content that you guys can engage with, for film related either reviews or discussions, essays, editorials, what have you. Anything that goes good in a written format so that we're still like communicating, getting our thoughts out there on different stuff. So there's a Tenet review up there that I wrote. So that's one of the ways we're trying to be more active, especially because we're not able to record as often. And I figure I'll pass it on to Luke to talk about how we've been more active on the social media game, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, so Twitter is a fun place, as you all hopefully know. It's a great place to laugh, get news, memes, all that good stuff. So we figured, kind of along with not being able to record as much, this way the three of us we're all logged into it. So you never know which one of us is talking. I mean, maybe we'll throw like a letter at the end so they know if we're actually
Yeah.
talking. But yeah, so on Twitter we just try to talk to more people about movies in general, but I think our main goal with that is really to grow our audience. So if you're watching this right now, you can follow us at Chatting Cinema on Twitter. And then if you are on Twitter right now, we're going to tweet the link to this. Hopefully you click on this and you're watching, because we've been interacting with some new people on there that I don't even think they know we have a podcast. I
Yeah.
just think that we're called Chatting Cinema.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully kind of along with the blog, it'll be like a new way to bring in people, because we just want to create a community of people who love movies, TV shows, and just talk about it in positive ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, this time off has given us a lot of time to reflect on the format and the content that we put out. So
hmm
we're trying, I think, to kind of broaden the horizons, appeal to a larger base of people, and hopefully through, news editorials like Flynn mentioned with the blog, and through creating a more active Twitter base, Twitter following, um, hopefully we accomplish that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Speaking of
sure.
Twitter, I'm going to take a picture of us right now. So smile, boys. So I'm going to, oh, that was so blurry. I'm going to retake
Sad.
it. I'm going to tweet it. If you like the tweet, we'll follow you back, dog. So smile. All right, that worked.
Perfect.
Cool.
Nice.
Social media moment.
So for our first episode back, in keeping and in thinking of the great Christopher Nolan, who has his newest movie Tenet out right now, in theaters, which are open, at least in the
Yes.
United States, surprisingly, we thought we'd give our top three, our favorite of his three films, each individually. Hopefully we each have different lists. I'm sure we will. I myself, I think I have a pretty hot take on this one.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we'll list the movies, we'll talk about them, maybe talk about why we have them in that order, why we picked them, and really, we're just going to be kind of appreciating Christopher Nolan here today. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Christopher Nolan, we love you a lot.
please watch our podcast.
That would be so cool.
If no
It
one
would
got
be.
me, I know Christopher Nolan got me.
Does anyone want to go first?
I mean, I'll kick it off.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Are we gonna do like all three of them, or are we gonna do like all of us say our three, then our two, then our one? Which
That's a
way?
good question.
When we
No,
did
let's
Spider-Man, we all kind of did like the I said my three, you guys said yours, you know?
yeah, let's do our three, all
Okay.
three. Yeah.
All right. So my number three is a little old number that came out in 2014 about space. It's called Interstellar.
All right.
When I watched that movie, it's like you know there's just movies where you're like, oh my god, these things are magical. Like I felt the movie magic, the love when I saw Interstellar from the Hans Zimmer score. All right, all right, all right. Excellent performance from my man's Matthew McConaughey. I just feel like that movie, it's like when I think of movies, when I think of movie experiences, I remember I watched that on a projector with a sound bar behind us at my
Mhm.
friend's house. So it was like a theater because I missed it in theaters. And it was like, whoa, like this is exciting, this is
Yeah.
fun. And it was definitely much like a lot of Nolan movies, one that you appreciate every time you watch it more. Cause like that story though, I mean, every
Yeah.
time I see it, I'm like, oh, I missed that. I missed that. I need to see that part again, you know?
Yeah, good pick.
N-
Number
Nolan
two.
classic.
Oh, so I'm going again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do
Yeah.
all
Oh,
three.
Let's,
okay, okay. I
yeah.
didn't realize. I thought we were gonna all go around. Okay, so my number two is Tenet. It's lit.
Yeah.
You can. Flynn stole the words right out of my mouth on his review on his blog post. Go read it. But that movie, oh my god! It might be just because it was like fun to be back in a movie theater for the first time again.
Mhm.
But like, oh my, I love that movie. There's so much
Yeah.
to it. I can't wait to see it again. Like I just said about Interstellar over and over. It's like the more you watch it, the more you appreciate it. And I think Tenet is probably right up that alley. So I don't want to say too much about it because that one's new. Like,
Yeah.
kind of let people see it first. I think I froze. Yep.
You sound like a techno
Yeah, I
song. It
froze.
sounds really good though.
I'm frozen. Oh
Sounds
no.
Daft
Oh
Punk.
no. See, this is the problem with having awful internet connection when you try to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
So basically, what I said about Tenet was I don't want to say too much because it's so new. I hope you watch it.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
fair.
Right.
And then my number one, I feel like it's so basic, but it's just one of my all-time favorite movies is The Dark Knight. Just
Yeah.
never get tired of it. I've watched it 100 times. It's so good, and I don't know what else there is to be said about that movie. I think it's
Right.
perfect, if not near perfect. So yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll follow up Luke's list because my list is relatively similar. So I'm gonna throw an honorable mention to Inception before I get into my top three
Wow.
because I had a very difficult time choosing between Inception and my number three choice. I just rewatched it a couple days ago, and I think that movie's fantastic. Like it's such a fun blockbustery movie. And I think this is something that like Christopher Nolan has perfected over the years with a lot of his big new releases. It's just like that blockbuster that still feels like, like deep tissue cinema. Like it's smart and it's not, I wouldn't say like as challenging as some of his other movies. But it's definitely in that vein of being, I think, really smart. But I think Inception's really accessible too, where you don't have to see it a couple times with some of the other movies I'll mention on my list to kind of like feel like you know what's getting on. And I think that's a strength Inception has. So I'm sorry that I made it seem like I had a top four, but like I said, it was that'll be my 3B because I had such a hard time choosing between this and what ultimately ended up being my number three choice, which was Memento.
Wow.
So Memento, Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, Joe Pantoliano is a crime thriller, kind of told in reverse. So the main character deals with some memory loss and has to kind of use Polaroid photos and tattoos to piece together this crime of who killed his wife. And with a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, you can't go too much into the plot because I don't want to spoil it. And I feel like Memento, even though it's a little bit older, is one that a lot of people still haven't seen because it was
I'm
before.
one of them.
Yeah, it was before like the Dark Knight trilogy and Christopher Nolan kind of like blew up and became this like $200 million budget filmmaker. But it's so worth watching. I think the plot's so good. And yeah, it's in that vein. Like, it's a noir, like, detective movie. Guy Pearce is really good in it. And I just have a lot of fun watching it every time. And like I said, that's one of those movies where you kind of get to the end, realize what's going on, and you're like, okay, I want to go rewatch this and kind of get a little deeper into it. So Memento ultimately took the number 3 choice for me. So my number 2, like Luke's, was Tenet. So you may think like this is reactionary and recency bias, and maybe it is, I don't know, but watching it the first time around, by the time the credits rolled, I felt like I had liked it more than Inception, more than Memento, more than, Interstellar. So now we're going to get into, like, you're going to be able to guess my number 1.
Spoilers.
But yeah, more than some of the more recent Christopher Nolan movies. I liked it more than Interstellar. I liked it more than, Dunkirk. So, I just had a really good time watching it the first time through, and I've actually seen it now 3 times. So you can tell how desperate I was to get back to the movie theater, because I've gone on 3 separate occasions to watch Tenet. But it was like Luke saying, with Interstellar and with Tenet, how every time you watch it, it's something new. I remember the first time I watched it, I was so focused on trying to understand the mechanics of how time works in the movie. Because, Christopher Nolan does a good job, but still wants it to be a little vague. So it's not super clear, and you do kind of have to, like, work at understanding it. And I know that's something that some people didn't like about the movie. I'll give a shout out to our boy Scott Movie Mance. He did a similar video. He has a series on his personal YouTube channel called Rank and File, where he ranks different movies. He did one on Quentin Tarantino, and with the release on Tenet, he did one on Christopher Nolan. And Tenet was pretty low on his list, which I was surprised by. But that's one of these things with Christopher Nolan. He's such a good filmmaker that all his movies are good. So you might have some personal differences with people because it's like little things are giving the edge to certain movies, and they're probably going to end up being personal things. So yeah, shout out to Scott Mance. Watch his contact. He's such a positive person, and I really adore the way he does things, and he's so knowledgeable about film. So I won't spoil his list for you, but I will just say that I was surprised where he put Tenet. But yeah, so
Come on our podcast.
First time around, yeah, we'll see. Scott Metz, come on down. But first time around was super focused on the time mechanics. So the second time I watched it, I felt like I was able to understand the main plot line a little bit more. And that kind of allowed for my third time watching for everything to kind of coalesce and become just like really perfect for what I was looking for that movie. So like, as a lot of people have said, this is kind of Christopher Nolan's James Bond movie. But this is probably as close as we'll get because Christopher Nolan wouldn't be allowed to make a James Bond movie as weird as he would like to. So this is what we're going to get. And it's fantastic as that. John David Washington's character is just so good as that suave kind of spy, infiltrating, figuring things out as he goes along. Robert Pattinson.
We lost one for a minute.
It's fantastic. I like review Kenneth Branagh. Most surprising performance for me. Did I freeze a little bit?
You froze a little bit, but we got the snippets.
Just a little. Remember, everybody listening.
Did I freeze a little bit?
You froze a little bit in there.
This is a Zoom podcast. We still can't. It's not even our studio anymore. So
plus the Zoom servers must be just overloaded.
Yeah, Zoom stonks are rising.
Yeah.
Oh,
Flynn will be back shortly.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
I'm back.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thanks for bearing
with
the technical
this is part of the reason you
difficulties.
can't do a regular upload schedule. So I don't know where I cut out there.
You're talking about Robert Pattinson, how great Kenneth Branagh was.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so all I was gonna say is Kenneth Branagh was the most surprising performance in the movie for me. He is so threatening as the villain Sator, and I think that he plays the kind of abusive, really like slimy character really, really well, better than I was expecting, because I had personally never seen Kenneth Branagh in something where he played that type of character. So he's fantastic. And then Elizabeth Debicki is also perfect in this movie. So yeah, Tenet's my number 2. Like I said, might think it's recency bias. Maybe it is, but watching it, everything really worked for me. And I know it hasn't worked for some people, and that's fine, but I was really happy with it. And then number 1 is also The Dark Knight. Sorry to bore everybody, but The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time. So let me just say a few words on it, because I love this movie. I do think it's a perfect movie. I think that Heath Ledger's Joker, and I don't know if I've ever said this before on the podcast, I think it's the best performance ever put to film, like, honestly. And I don't know if that's I'm sure that's a mainstream opinion. I'm not breaking new ground by saying Heath Ledger is very good in The Dark Knight, but his performance is just so blow you away every single time. And I think that that's what elevates this movie to be the best that Nolan's ever made, because I like all of his Batman movies. But that, Heath is the difference maker here. Because Christian Bale is as great as he is. He plays a good Bruce Wayne. He plays a good Batman. Michael Caine is perfect for Alfred. I mean, how can you go wrong, right? Aaron Eckhart, sometimes his performance as Two-Face is a little undersung because of the fact that Heath Ledger is just perfection put to film as the Joker. But Aaron Eckhart is so good in this movie. As Harvey Dent, and then eventually as Two-Face. Sorry for the spoilers from the movie from 2008, but this is like the one Christopher Nolan movie, I guess the Dark Knight trilogy, where I'm not like, I don't care about spoilers, because everybody's seen these movies pretty much.
It's interesting you brought up Aaron Eckhart, though, because as much as I love Heath Ledger and how amazing he is, like, think about how impactful the Harvey Dent scenes are.
Oh yeah.
Like, and the quotes from him. Like, and I love the fact that he's only Two-Face for like the last like 20 minutes. Like, I really enjoy the fact that we got a full movie of Harvey Dent.
Yeah, his plotline's so good. He's phenomenal. Everybody in that movie is phenomenal. I think the pacing's great. Obviously the score is fantastic. That was something I forgot to mention with Tenet too. Ludwig Göransson's score is awesome. It is so good. He is like the next big thing in movie music, man. He's so good. But
he has not missed yet.
No. He just doesn't miss at all. But yeah, Dark Knight, again, like it's hard to talk about this movie, because it feels like Luke said, everything's been said about it. But I think that sometimes people lose sight of that because everybody talks about it. They're like, all right, it can't be that good. It can't hold up that well. And it just is. Like, every time you watch it, it's just every time you watch it, it's just like, oh yeah, this is still.
It's like the definition. I've seen this meme so many times on movie Twitter where it's like, what's that one movie where if you see it on TV, doesn't matter what part it's in, you'll just stop and watch it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll even see it. It'll be like an hour in, and I'll just go and get my DVD and restart it and watch it from the beginning.
It's still the best superhero movie in my opinion. It's just really, really good. Chris Nolan really outdid himself there. So that is my 3-1: Memento, Tenet, and then The Dark Knight, with a special shout out to Inception.
I'm so ready for Gianni's hot takes.
Oh boy, here come the hot takes. I'm going to say 2 out of these 3 probably fall very low on Nolan's list.
Okay.
At least that's what I think. But let's get right into it. My number 3 is a movie, part of the Dark Knight trilogy, that is not The Dark Knight, that I think evaluates and builds on one of the best themes of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and that's Batman as a symbol. And it's The Dark Knight Rises. I think that movie looks at Batman as the symbol, not Bruce Wayne. It's not about who's under the mask. It's about what you do with the mask. And I think The Dark Knight Rises really interrogates that so well. And this might be because I have a strong bias towards Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I love his character of Blake in that movie. And I think that, kind of naturally passing the mantle on to him was really well done. And to have to follow something as monumental as The Dark Knight is like no small feat, especially when you lose Heath Ledger as tragically as you do. And I think Nolan ended his trilogy in a way that was really fitting. And again, one that I think really, really gets to the core of Batman, the Batman, you know? And every time I rewatch it, the whole trilogy is amazing. But when I get to The Dark Knight Rises, it just feels like such a satisfying ending, especially for the stories of all those characters. You have this like really broken down Bruce Wayne, and he's literally lost everything. And he's able to kind of rise out of that pit. Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, I think that is like impeccable casting.
Yeah.
And and then of course Tom Hardy as Bane. People knock him for not being able to hear him under the mask, but I mean, he kills it. He's menacing.
He wore a mask.
At least he wore a mask.
Times. He was way ahead of his time.
Little did we know. But God, I mean, and then of course it's like Nolan's big action set piece movie too of that trilogy. You have like full on wars in Gotham, and it's beautiful to watch.
The football stadium scene.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In IMAX, like, oh, that was anyway. I love The Dark Knight Rises, and I'll defend it to my dying day. Number 2 for me, maybe less controversial, Inception. Flynn, I think, hit on all the right notes, notes that I was going to probably hit on too. I think Inception is like this very accessible blockbuster film from a director and a writer who makes very complex movies with very unique ideas. And the cast, Joseph Gordon-Levitt again shows up. Yeah. The cast is so good. And like people who were lesser known at the time, like Ellen Page and like Tom Hardy, they play such good roles. And I know it gets a little flack for maybe not having the best characters as far as like getting to be able to attach to them. You really only feel attached to Cobb in Inception. And that I do agree with to an extent, but like those other characters, they serve the story so well. And it makes for such a great, you know, like you said, action film and summer blockbuster that's also really deep. And I think Nolan just nails that every time with every movie he makes. And I think it's good to mention too that like he's never made a bad movie. So and my number 1.
Can you do that, Christopher Nolan? We dare you.
We implore you. My number 1 is Inception. I mean, no, Interstellar.
Oh,
2 ins.
I was like,
2 ins. Yeah, my number 2 and 1 are Inception. Now, I think
that's
Interstellar.
An Inception right there.
I think like all of his movies, they get better when you rewatch them. But for me, Interstellar is the one that like every time I come back to it, I find something new. And I think it's full of his best written characters as far as being able to access them emotionally. Like, spoiler alert, but everyone knows the scene, Cooper watching back the video messages that span like 30 years and seeing his kids grow up, and he was gone for what, 10 minutes? Like, that's insane. And I think that's another thing too. Everyone knows Nolan loves to play with the concept of time in all of his movies. And I think Interstellar is the one that really pulls on your heart the most and using that concept of time. And I think that's so creative. And that's why I think also when I go back and watch it, that's why I think I go back. I go back to see, you know, that heartbreak. That's a depressing thing to say.
Yeah.
But
we also go back. We also go back for the excellent Hans Zimmer score.
I was going to say, it's also my favorite Hans Zimmer score. And I remember an interview that Nolan and Zimmer did about how they came up with the score for that movie, and just the unconventional lengths that they went to create that score are so interesting. And it made for something that's really like, you've never heard it before.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing about Interstellar too is that the science, even though it's not there yet, they did it as accurately as possible based off of what we know. They literally had like physicists and like astronomers on the crew to do all the science.
Consulted on the script, right?
Nolan's gonna get some scientists. That's one thing about Nolan. If he's going into this, he's gonna make it like as weird as it might be, like on screen, and to figure out, he's gonna make it as accurate as possible, which is something I appreciate.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that like space movies tend to feel kind of cold,
Mm-hmm.
and I think at least they feel sort of inaccessible as far as the characters going up to space. Like, can we really relate to them? But I relate so much to Cooper. And again, Anne Hathaway
Yeah.
um, plays a great role too. And like, it's just nice to have that. And I think that's why it's one that I want to come back to so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
For the improvement.
Scott Mantz described Interstellar when he was doing his writing video as the most emotional of
Yeah.
Nolan's films, and I would definitely agree with that. Um, and it doesn't have that, like you were saying, with Inception, as far as the cast and the characters, and something Nolan gets flack for, like not being able to connect. I think that that's something that Tenet has some of too, where these characters are here for specific purposes, and even when we're like getting into people's psyches and dealing with things like that, we're not connecting on a level that some other movies might allow us to do. um which I just think is part of his style. Like,
Yeah.
it's the way he writes characters, which I think is fine. But Interstellar is a movie that I think doesn't have that problem as much, because of the emotion, because it just feels kind of personal
Yeah.
and really real. So that's a very interesting list. I'm excited to like get into like talking about these. Um, Yours was definitely hot take. The
Yeah.
Dark Knight
Thank you.
Rises being the one ambassador of
The
that
Dark Knight
trilogy.
trilogy. Yeah.
But I think that I think that when you ask like everyday people, like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises are going to be the movies from Chris Nolan, and Inception as well, but not on the level of Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, where they're just like, I've loved that movie. Like, so many people love Dark Knight Rises. I think people forget like how huge it was when it came out. It
Yeah.
was massive. People are going to see it like 13 times in theaters, like just going back, because it was such a fun blockbuster movie, and Tom Hardy's so fun in that movie. Um, there are certain things that like I personally would change about it. Like, I think that what we got from Tom Hardy is great, but I didn't love the choice of Bane as the villain in that movie. Just because I love what Chris Nolan did with that universe, making it so grounded and real. And I feel like he kind of like forced himself to jump through hoops to make Bane that type of character, where I think he could have gone with somebody like Riddler or Black Mask or something, and sort of had them fit into that universe more. But it was worth it for what he did, because Tom Hardy is so good in that movie, and it's certainly a different version of Bane than we've ever seen before, but it's one that really really acts in that story as Chris Nolan intended him to. um, and Marion Cotillard in there uh, as Talia. So good, such a good performance. That's one I think people forget about, because like it's Christian Bale and Tom Hardy in that movie, but and Hathaway as Catwoman. So Marion Cotillard is there, and she gives a great performance as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were hitting on, as far as like having to stick that landing after what happened with Heath is such an enviable position. Like, because people say like, oh, Heath would have been in there as the judge character that Scarecrow ultimately was in the one scene. But the way I see it, and I've said this before, is I think if Heath didn't pass, then we would still, maybe Chris Nolan wouldn't be making them, but I don't think Warner Brothers would have allowed that universe to end. Like, I think that Heath Ledger is so transcendent as the Joker, that I think they would have just like kept going in that universe and kind of built everything around there just to keep Heath. Like, that's how good I feel that performance is. So, I don't know if going into that before Heath was gone, um, that was necessarily the movie that Warner Brothers would have wanted Chris Nolan to make. Um, so to have to kind of change gears and figure out how to end that, which again is like conjecture on my part, but just saying for the record that that's just how I view it. So to have to kind of like put a tidy bow on everything, and have the ending that it does, I think is kind of a testament to Nolan and what he can do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up, Gianni, because it really is a slept-on movie, just in general. Like, because I mean, it followed up The Dark Knight, which is
Right.
widely considered one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone
Yeah,
superhero
period.
movies. But something I'd like to talk about too, because I don't even think we've said it yet, is how much I love Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, every single one of his movies is good. We've said that.
Right.
But like, all of the villains in this Dark Knight trilogy are just so compelling, such great
Yeah.
performances. Scarecrow, it's one of my favorite versions of Scarecrow ever.
Cillian Murphy, man.
He's amazing. I love
Yeah.
him. But I think it's just like that movie slept on too, because it's like, oh, that was a pretty good movie, and then Dark Knight comes out and you're like, forget about that one. Like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
don't forget about it. It's also really good.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, because that's what I think happens. Like that's part of the reason I was saying, like, when you ask people and they bring up The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, I think that Batman Begins kind of gets forgotten a little bit because it's the starter film, and I would say it's a bit slower than the other movies, because Chris is trying to establish like what he wants out of this universe. But when you go back and watch it, like you're saying, it's so good. Like Cillian Murphy is fantastic. I love the story about how Cillian Murphy actually auditioned for Batman, and Chris Nolan was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go in a different direction, but I gotta have you, man. I gotta have you." And then got him in for the Scarecrow role because he's fantastic. Like you were saying, like that version of Crane and Scarecrow is terrifying. Like
Yeah.
I
It
think that's
is.
one thing about
Absolutely.
the villains in the series is they're like, because Nolan has created this really grounded, realistic universe, and you can debate like, oh well, what is that done to influence other superhero movies? Now we have things that are gritty for like no reason, and people just want to make them gritty and realistic. But it's not Christopher Nolan's fault that he did a great job at it.
Yeah. Really.
And so part of that is creating realistic villains that could do this kind of thing in real life. And thinking about that is just horrifying. Thinking about Scarecrow's plot in Batman Begins, or what we see the Joker do in Dark Knight, or I mean, the first time we see Bane, he's hijacking a plane. Like,
Yeah.
that's a great scene. That goes back to what Gianni was saying about the action set pieces. Like,
Yeah.
that's the opener for Bane, like hijacking a plane, which is crazy. So yeah, really realistic, grounded villains, and yeah, I think people forget about how good Killian is as a Scarecrow in that movie, and he
Low-key would
pops
have
up in
loved to
all
see him as
three.
Batman.
Yeah,
I would have loved to see him as
it would have been
Batman. Like, I
interesting.
know he was so good as Scarecrow,
Yeah,
but like that would have been so cool.
It
yeah,
was
that's
Nolan who was talking about Cillian Murphy and how he tends to have him without glasses in a lot of his movies because he's so fascinated by his eyes.
yeah. He's got
That's
the piercing eyes.
like one
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
favorite quotes. It's so funny.
I mean, look at his eyes. Is he
Yeah.
wrong? No.
That's why he kept bringing him back. He's like, all right, we have this opening scene in the Dark Knight. It's in a parking garage. It could be anybody, but we're gonna make it Scarecrow because we want you back there. We want people to see the eyes. But yeah, no, Nolan, man, and Gianni, I'm so glad you brought up Inception too as your number two, and went a little bit deeper into it. You know, because you brought up with the cast, like it's tough to pick a best cast in a Nolan movie because
Yeah.
there are so
He
many
always
good
gets
ones.
he always gets so many good people.
Right.
Although, you know what I would say? Like, I feel like we're not talking about it enough because we want to avoid spoilers because it is so
Mhm.
fresh. I think my favorite Nolan cast is in Tenet currently.
I was
Like,
just gonna say that. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
so good.
They work so well together. And
Yeah.
it's interesting too because like Nolan, as we see with a lot of like big auteur directors, uh will pull people that he really likes and like keep coming back to him, but keep coming back to them. Like Tom Hardy's a Nolan favorite. He's in Inception, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in Inception and Rises. So he finds these actors that he likes and comes back to them. But with Tenet, it was kind of a fresh group. It
Yeah.
wasn't really the Nolan favorites. Michael Caine pops up, and he's great. He's Michael Caine. Michael Caine plays the Michael Caine-iest character too in Tenet. But I mean, John David Washington, man, like it's a matter of time before he's a superstar. I think I said that in my review, and I said it when I tweeted about Tenet, but he's just phenomenal, man. Like, he's so good.
And him and Robert Pattinson's like relationship, the way they play off each other. I don't know if there's a better duo in a Nolan movie, in my opinion, at least.
They
work so well together.
Yeah. And it's, usually with Nolan, well, I guess, I don't know if I want to say usually, we see it a lot with Nolan protagonists where like the character closest to them is kind of like, they're not the buddy duo, right?
Right.
Like with Inception, when we have Cobb, like everybody on his team is kind of like distrustful of him because of what he's been through. And so it's kind of like a strained working relationship. And, we see
Batman's got every single mental issue and doesn't trust anyone except his butler.
Right. We see Bruce like really push people away. And even his butler, even Alfred, we see him push him away from time to time. And that's a Batman hallmark, but still, we have that. And it certainly happens in Memento as well, where there's this distrust going on. But Tenet, we really get, I don't even want to call it like buddy cop, but that energy. And they play, John David Washington and Robert Pattinson play off each other so well. I mean, they are so good together. And Christopher Nolan in some of these quotes about Tenet, as he's been getting interviewed, is talking about how talented Robert is. And, man, I mean, I don't, it's hard to pick a favorite performance in Tenet, but I might be partial to Robert Pattinson as Neil. Like, I think it's so good. And again, don't want to take anything away from John David Washington or Elizabeth Debicki or Kenneth Branagh, because I think they're all great too. But Robert Pattinson just stays putting out it's going to be tough because he was my favorite performance of 2019 in The Lighthouse. And who knows how many more movies are actually going to come out in 2020. So he might be my favorite performance in 2020. And then are we going to get the Batman in 2021? And Robert Pattinson's going to have a three-peat for me?
The three-peat?
Stay tuned for that.
Robert Pattinson is Michael Jordan confirmed.
Right. But great.
While
great
we're
stuff.
on it, I mean, I don't want to get away from it because Tenet is just such a fascinating movie. And I think the reason it probably hasn't made my top 3, top 5 list even yet is because I've only seen it once.
Right.
And second, because I think this is something you find with a lot of Nolan movies, save for the Dark Knight trilogy, it's that his characters are really tough to access because he doesn't give you a lot as far as story goes. He kind of like feeds it to you as the movie goes. And everyone's fine with that. We're all happy to have that.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Tenet especially, there's so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
And then once it clicks, like it really clicks.
Right.
And what I mean by that is emotionally. You're talking about Robert Pattinson's performance, and I would say, without getting into spoilers, it's Pattinson and Debicki that really have to bring the emotional core to the movie. And then, of course, you have John David Washington, who I feel like it's not until a certain point that things click for him and they click for us, and then tears come. So it's like,
well, exactly though. Yeah, exactly. I think when he realizes what's going on and like
undo a Nolan, like
we did
question mark.
But I think when John David Washington realizes what's happening in the movie is like when we do and when Nolan wants us to, which is just so well done. Like, because I mean, it's like some people who like are more casual movie fans, which is absolutely fine. They don't like stuff like this where it takes a lot to understand it and you have to really dig deep. But like the way that he's able to basically just piece this puzzle together for us at the pace he wants. And it's not a movie you can just figure out and just be like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I know how this works. No, we figure it out when the protagonist figures it out. And the way it builds to that. And then from that point on, it's just like you're pressing on the gas as hard as you can, driving forward. Like, don't stop. Like, just the plot is flying at you. And it's just so well done.
Yeah, I think you guys are so spot on there as far as Especially what Gianni was saying about the emotion and when it clicks. And again, like, hard to talk about without spoilers. And I know we're in a difficult place because some movie theaters are open. I don't know if every state's movie theaters are open, so you might not even be somewhere you can see it, or you might be kind of nervous about going back to the movies. I know we only went to
Which
the
is
movies.
completely okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We only went to the movies because we genuinely like looked at the guidelines, evaluated the area we were in, and kind of felt like we could safely proceed
We
into there.
masked up.
So if you can't do that, like there's no movie good enough to risk your health to see. And I'm sure that people would even after we did that and kind of evaluated for ourselves would criticize us for going out to a movie theater. Personally, I couldn't help myself. So once it was open, and like I said about evaluating your area, like knowing that there probably weren't going to be a ton of people at my movie theater, was ultimately what made me feel the best, because it's difficult to enforce restrictions, especially for staff that are, when a difficult customer comes in, are going to be kind of at the mercy of that customer.
Yeah.
But if you can see it, go see it. Like it's really, really good, Tenet, and go see it multiple times if you can, because that's, like Johnny was saying about only seeing it once and feeling like that's why it hasn't hit the breakthrough yet on your list potentially. And when you reevaluate it, like maybe it would, because when I saw Tenet, I could not stop thinking about it. The reason I've seen it multiple times already is because I would just be sitting there thinking about it and then just impulsively go back to the movie theater. Like showtime is in 10 minutes and I'm just booking it, driving safe, but like booking it to get to the theater because I wanted to watch it again. So,
One more thing I'll say, and I think it might be a good place to kind of wrap up too, is this is a cop out because I did say that my favorite Hans Zimmer score is in Interstellar, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I think the best Nolan movie score is in Tenet right now.
it's so good.
And not only is that a testament,
hard to pick though, because they're all so good. That's the problem.
I think, and this is of course nothing new as far as movies go, but especially with Nolan films, I feel like that emotional impact is informed by how good the score is.
Mm-hmm.
And you have somebody as talented as Ludwig Göransson in there.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the parts of Tenet that hit me emotionally are so much because of the music that follows.
Yeah.
And it keeps with the momentum going too. I think it's his fastest paced movie also.
Yeah, I would say so.
So
yeah, it doesn't really stop once you get past that opening scene. Like there's like a short break and then boom, you're going. You're on like a monorail train flying.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. One of the things, one of the ways I know that, because I love listening to scores afterwards, and I know Gianni definitely does as well, like just listening to the music by itself. And one of the ways I know that a score was like really fantastic is when I'm listening to it and like the scene starts playing in my head.
Yeah.
And I can just like revert back to like watching that moment. It doesn't happen with every score. Like even good scores, you'll just be like, oh, that's good, kind of blends together a little bit. That is not the case with Tenet. Like it's so good. And I said, I was talking to some people about it and I was like, I don't know, next Fincher movie, as much as he loves Reznor and Ross, he might be giving Göransson a call with the way the Tenet score is, because that was one of those things I was thinking of. Like those are some of Reznor and Ross's scores for like The Social Network and Gone Girl are some of my favorite music work in film. And that was one of the vibes I was kind of getting from Tenet, was like electronic, but not like fully leaning into that. It's just, man, Ludwig Göransson is something special, because I feel like this is really different from his other stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Like I felt like Black Panther and Mandalorian went a little more hand in hand, as far as like it felt kind of like trademarky. He's using like wind instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
he knew the franchises
really
he was working with really well too.
Yeah, really finding like unique ways to make his points musically. And Tenet just, it feels different, but it also feels like it's got a Göransson signature of just
Yeah.
really, really being a great companion piece for the movie he's making that music for. So
Yeah. So Christopher Nolan, one of the best directors working today.
he's great.
If you haven't seen any of these movies, sorry we spoiled so much, but also watch all of them. You know?
Yeah.
I feel
yeah.
like if you click a top 3 best Christopher Nolan video, hopefully you've seen at least like the Dark Knight trilogy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Try-
you go.
Just saying, try not to get too specific, but again, like it's really hard to discuss what you love about these movies without kind of delving into them a little bit. So
Yeah.
Without gigantic spoilers.
So with that, we don't know when we'll be back, but hopefully very soon and as consistent as we can be during
Yep.
these very confusing and crazy times. Stay safe wherever you are, whoever you are. If you're in school, if you're at work, yeah, and watch movies because they do
Yeah.
help with all of this.
And
So,
if you're missing us posting, remember to check out the Twitter and the blog
Yeah.
because there'll be some more stuff on there too.
yeah, all right. So we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.